So, guys, we're really pleased to have Bill Harbison with us, who is a gaming a legend in the gaming industry, who has worked with many companies, including Ocean Software, Malibu Interactive, and various others, and has been involved in such games as RoboCop, Chase HQ, Lethal Weapon, and many others. Welcome, Bill, for joining us.
Hi, thanks for asking me.
No, it's great to have you here. You're a guilty pleasure, or certainly all the work that you've done over the years, particularly RoboCop and Terminator 2. They are many a debate with some friends over Terminator 2, because I used to play it on the Amstrad and really, really enjoyed it. But of course, it's one of those things where it's a movie license, isn't it? So everyone has their different opinions versus the movie, but certainly something we'll get on to during the interview.
And I didn't Duncan, have much input in that one on its own, but everybody in the company had to be roped into getting it done on time.
Yeah.
So I did probably a level.
I think probably what I think obviously researched you a lot is Ocean Software was a fun place to work, but it's because you all worked bloody hard.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it didn't seem like we were working hard because we enjoyed what we were doing.
Yeah.
And everybody got on. So, we knew when we had to be finished for, and we just make sure we did it and then just had fun in between.
Pulled all-nighters, probably.
You're based...
No, I don't think I ever did one.
Oh, really?
No.
I was just waiting for the Spectrum to load up games, I think, probably. No.
Well, yeah. I mean... You come in the morning and then you set it loading and then you go off and have your breakfast and a cup of tea and come back and it's nearly done.
Excellent. Well, Tom, you got a question?
I do, yeah. In terms of getting started in the industry in the early days, what was that like for you? What was the pathway to the success and the projects you eventually worked on?
It was sending graphics examples out on cassettes to different companies.
Okay.
And just seeing what came back.
And who was the first? Who was the first one that came back for you?
US Gold came back and said no. Electronic Arts said no. Sensible Software said no.
Oh wow!
So there was a lot of no's.
You were quite young at the time, weren't you? When you started?
When I was sending those out, I was 20.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't even know that I could work in the industry. I was just sending cassettes out to see if there was a chance of it.
Yeah.
From what I could gather, you did the equivalent nowadays of making mods for games, didn't you? Graphical mods.
Start off with, yeah. I think probably the first thing I did was I had a copy of Rebel Star Raiders.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of strategic turn-based thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got a cassette on one of the computer magazines where you could load the game and you could stream through memory and find the graphics.
Wow.
So I changed all of the soldiers into stormtroopers from Star Wars, and then saved it out again. So that was my first ever bit of graphics that I did, and then I sort of moved on to doing loading screens, making mock-ups of arcade games on the Spectrum, and all that sort of thing.
So how did you create the art back in those? Obviously, didn't have PCs back in those. I'm born in '78, so I can't remember how you would do art on Spectrums and the ZX.
It was I had an art program called The Artist 2, so everything was drawn with that. So it was keyboard based, so you had to move up, down, left, right, press a button to plot a pixel or draw a line or fill it in.
Was your normal art? Did you did art? Regular standard art as well.
Well,
So
I was meant to go to Glasgow Art College initially, but then decided I want to sort of have a look at this first.
So how did you find transferring pixels like from regular paint or other mediums to pixels? Was it something you found easier, or?
It was quite easy. I mean, once you sort of understand your boundaries with the Spectrum screen, it's not too bad. I think what helped was I started drawing stuff really small, and then started drawing bigger and bigger stuff. So I think that's how I got more detailed stuff into my graphics and loading screens.
Looking at the days from working on the Spectrum to some of the newer systems that you worked on, right up to perhaps the Sega Racing, what was your preference? Was it easier to work on the Spectrum
Pixel
days,
graphics.
or do you prefer the more modern systems? Even what was your favorite system to work on?
No, I think I was sort of destined to move into 3D because I was always interested in 3D anyway. I watched the movie Tron and wanted to know how they did it.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And then when we were working at Ocean and we'd get 3D games coming in like F-29 Retaliator on the PC, I always wished that I could get in there and knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to get into 3D anyway.
Okay. Tron, I remember, blew my mind as well. The graphics in the 80s, it was just astounding how they did that. It was
oh yeah.
I actually watched a recent program on Disney Plus where they show how they used the suits to be reflective and reverse engineered the fabric to show up on the animation. It was a really interesting documentary. So
it was quite laborious as well, though, and quite technical. The whole thing.
Yeah.
And then they would have ruined it with was it Rubber Jeff Bridges in the sequel?
Yeah, he was a bit Uncanny Valley, wasn't he?
Yes, very much so. But one thing I was going to ask was, obviously nowadays, with your work, you can just get an image over PC, or you can share via the internet. When you had ports like Chase HQ and whatnot, how did you get the game? How were you just told, here's the game in some form, like were you given an arcade cabinet, or were you just given printed images, and what was like the hardest part of getting them onto the Spectrum? Because I'll just say the feeling, I don't know if you ever understood the feeling of having arcade games on your home computer.
Oh yeah, I bought Spectrum games before I got in the industry, so I know what it's like.
Opening them up as a child and seeing that this game that had no place being on the Spectrum and having running on the Spectrum, it was just the joy, and I don't think you get that with nowadays. But anyway, so what did you get as somebody who was porting?
Well, we got the full arcade machine.
Oh wow!
For about a month, and then it went somewhere else.
Oh.
But normally it would be you might have a stripped down version of the arcade machine, or you would get a video of someone playing it. But I didn't have that, so I had to, because we had the seat and everything with the steering wheel and all that. So I had to sit in the driver's seat with a notepad and a pen and draw out the cars and the different shapes of the trees and stuff, and then take it out and go over to like my computer and sort of like plot it all out. Speaking to John about what size the graphics had to be, so the car has to be this size and the trees have to be that size, and so that was how we did it.
Oh, so it's quite technical as opposed to. I mean, obviously your art skills were a big part of it, but it's very much sizes and copying things the right proportions. Would you say it was more technical or more art?
I think I was basically given as much freedom as I could as I could on that game, because they let me just do, like, I had to draw every frame of the cars going into the distance and all the other objects going into the distance as well. So I think I probably did 6 different levels, and I think they only ended up using 4. So I was a bit upset about that, because they would pop on too quick where I had them moving in a lot smoother.
Okay.
So potentially there's some hidden levels that we could may show up one day on a ROM somewhere.
Was that a technical? Yeah. So was that a technical thing?
It was just to get it all to fit into 48K.
Yeah.
So because the track had all been optimized and the code had been optimized, and they'd got it all running like really quickly.
It wasn't very fast game.
Well, there's the size of the cars. There's just draw the cars, draw all the objects, and just throw them in. And they just took out and just used what they needed and took out what they didn't.
So
fantastic.
Was there any licenses that you really wanted, that you thought, oh, I'd love to do the art for that?
Well, I was already moving on to Batman on the Amiga. And then I saw that Chase HQ had come out. Chase HQ 2 had come out. And I remember reading a review of it and seeing it and thinking, I kind of wish I'd done that one as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, the sequels are always not as good as the original, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was, I mean, yeah, it's so beloved, though. I mean, Chase HQ, it's one of those ones there that, whenever you're talking about the arcades, sort of the 80s, yeah, Chase HQ was fantastic.
I mean, I wouldn't even have believed if you'd told me at the time that this was still going to be talked about now.
Yeah. Well, you never know at these points, do you?
And I think the retro gaming, they become a legacy moving forward as well. I mean, you look at YouTube now and the collecting market. Some of these games are bringing in ridiculous money. And so the legend of the games in the industry is just growing.
Sorry, I'm stuck with over a cold. I'm sorry.
I'm the same. I'm all bunged up as well.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that people with the Amstrad are always asking me about the Amstrad version. I don't have the heart to tell. Well, I do. Sometimes I don't have the heart to tell them that it was done in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
it was basically an afterthought. Well, you have to do the Amstrad version. Oh, okay, then I just did it and then handed the graphics over, and that was it. I was on to the next project.
The Amstrad was always an afterthought, definitely.
That's how they worked, I guess, because it was the same, pretty much the same code, or I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was 3rd place in popularity as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So, of all the games you worked on, could you pick your 3 favorite projects and why?
Well, Chase HQ would need to be one because of the amount of work and the amount of stuff I managed to put in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, that's really difficult.
I'd like to test you.
May I just say, I did notice while looking you up, you haven't done work on a lawn mowing simulator, which
that was good. That was good fun.
As a mid-40s dad who has got a teeny tiny garden, being able to sit on lawn mowers and mow things was very relaxing.
Oh right, you got that, did you?
Well, I played it on Game Pass. I own it on PC.
Yeah.
Did I have another format? But no, I have it at least in 2 places. Yes.
Well, I'd probably put that in my top 3 because I was given 2 entire areas to basically build up on my own. So I had the castle and all the grounds and all the stuff around that outside.
Oh, yeah.
That was mine, and the stables with the manor house and the show jumping stuff at the back. That was the 2 that I basically
it was just one of those.
Gave me to do on my own.
it was one of those unlikely successes, like Power Wash Simulator, that just exploded, absolutely exploded with popularity. And when I tried it, it was very relaxing and great way of turning off from the kids and whatnot.
Excuse.
So that's two. What would be number three? Danny Thompson.
Well, maybe because that was like my first game.
Oh, that was your first. Oh, yes.
What a success for a first game.
So, again, that was reference from videotapes. So,
wow.
And
you did have two. Was it the third game? I think
the third one, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I had never done any animation, so I was learning animation from watching videos and doing the graphics at the same time. So it was like taking on lots of information at once. So I learned a lot during that. It probably didn't do as well as the other two, but I got a lot personally from that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you certainly kept the industry in joysticks and keyboard membranes, because many a joystick and keyboard were damaged in the process of that game.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't make any money off that, unfortunately. That was
so what about and do correct me if I'm wrong on this, RoboCop 3, you had some involvement in that game. Now, let's just talk about, first of all, the difficulty of RoboCop 3. It's impossible to. I've never got past, I think, the second level.
Which version are we talking about?
There was a 3D version, wasn't there?
Yeah, the 3D version. Yeah, I think was it Amiga on that one?
It was.
No, I didn't have anything to do with that one.
There was a 2D.
It was
Super Nintendo one.
It was on the SNES on the Nintendo.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. 1 second.
I really didn't enjoy working on that project at all. I think you can probably tell by looking at it.
Yeah. But it was certainly different to the first one. That's for sure. In many ways.
The thing was, I was given restrictions straight away, and I wanted to do the sprites, and I did the sprites on it, on the characters. And obviously I wanted it to be more like the original, but for some reason, the programmer said that he has to walk with his arms up like that, and when he shoots, his arm has to fully extend.
Okay.
So I was like, why?
I'm just trying to think of RoboCop.
That's the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
He shot from the hips, didn't he?
Yeah, but he would always walk with the gun out, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But with this one, it was like that. His arm kept shooting out with the gun. So that instantly got my back up. And then they were getting all sorts of other things. We didn't have any designs for anything. So I just basically took the piss at one time where I was just like making stuff up that looked crap, looked crap, and putting stuff in that wasn't even in the film.
The flying level was quite entertaining.
The what?
The flying level was quite entertaining.
That was the only reason they wanted to do the game, because he's got a jetpack, and you've got mode 7 on the SNES. So that was the main reason for doing it. Everything else didn't seem to matter.
So did you ever stick any Easter eggs in that have any visual Easter eggs that have never been found?
We weren't allowed to.
Oh, was that very tightly controlled? Was it?
Yeah, with Nintendo, yeah. We even had one of the levels was set in an abandoned church, and we were told that we couldn't have any religious imagery. We couldn't have pews. We couldn't have stained glass windows. We couldn't have crosses. We couldn't have anything.
Oh wow!
So it was basically a building. It wasn't a church.
A warehouse. Yeah, basically a warehouse.
Okay, a church with no churchy stuff. That is just a warehouse. Yes. That's brilliant. And what about any other games that that's like non-Nintendo? Is there any Easter eggs? That ones that have been found and ones that haven't?
No, I don't. I've never been one for putting stuff in like that, because when you get found out, you normally get told off. So
Mm.
I've always played it safe and just like done stuff, or I might have like put somebody's face in a picture somewhere or in a texture for a model, but
Yeah.
nothing. I've not hidden an object away in a
Yeah.
level that's never going to be found or anything like that.
Yeah, not put your name or anything anywhere.
No.
Obviously, you had your name in the credits, so why bother? Was there any games that you worked on that maybe got cancelled or didn't see the light of day that you were particularly proud of?
While I was at Ocean, we were working on we basically had nothing to do. So the guy I was sharing a room with, Paul Hughes, had written an isometric engine. And then we found out we had a license for a Simpsons game. So the pair of us knocked up a level of an isometric Simpsons game.
Oh, wow.
Set in the house was all set out. I did the sofa and I had the characters walking around in isometric style.
Yeah.
And then that just got cancelled because it wasn't official anyway. But they said, no, you're not doing that. There's something else.
That sounded good.
Fallout, like the original Fallout games, just with the Simpsons.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And the other one was I was working at a company doing games for mobile phones. And we worked for months on a SpongeBob SquarePants golf game.
That's different. I like it.
And we got right up to the last week, and then it was cancelled. The game was complete. All the graphics were done. All the code was done. It was pretty much bug free, and then it got cancelled.
Oh man, that's crazy.
That's the world of mobile games, I presume.
That is. I remember the very early days of the SPV Microsoft phone, which was the first Microsoft OS, I guess. And they were releasing Doom and Quake ports, trying to get them to function and run at a normal speed. And watching how they would break down the textures and all things just to get these things running. And now you can run them on a watch. So
I think somebody did Doom on a pregnancy test recently.
Although I did see that.
Technically, I think it was a video. I think technically that they got the pregnancy test, but it was running. It was Doom on a pregnancy test. We've given you half an hour, and obviously you probably want to get away to bed because it is the evening. I don't know if you might be a late person, but we'll just ask a couple of questions that we got on Gaming Dads. It's somebody said, "Who was your pixel art inspiration?" So was this? Would that be somebody that you worked with, or was there work that you saw before you started on Daley Thompson that you thought that's amazing?
I think it would be David Thorpe, who did all the early Ocean and some US gold loading screens.
Okay.
I always looked at them as being particularly good and sort of tried to copy that sort of style. When I was starting out, I was trying to do stuff similar to what he was doing.
Okay.
Did you do the RoboCop Spectrum splash screen? Yes.
Yeah, I did the loading screen. Yeah, but that was originally a screen capture of the poster, which I just tidied up.
And I saw recently online you put an updated version of that out.
I did that. I did an update for the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really good actually. Yeah, really good.
I mean, I have put it up on the screen. Hang on. There, you can't see it, but it will be on the screen for the video podcast.
One of the questions I like to ask, we'll be asking everyone during interviews, is for people getting into the industry now, what suggestions would you have for them? And is there any reading material you would suggest people look at to to learn to develop?
Reading material, not so much, because most of the information that you would need is on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to do art or 2D art or 3D art, the YouTube is just full of tutorials. Recently, I had to move from using 3ds Max to using Blender, because I started at a job on the first day and they said, right, here's Maya, so off you go. And I didn't know how to use it. So I had to I downloaded Blender, which I'd messed about with in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then I'd learned I had two screens. I had one that was running tutorials and the other I was doing my work. So whenever I got stuck, I would just look it up and then go back and finish the work. And within about 3 weeks, I could use it quite fluently for what I needed to do. So YouTube's the place.
There we are, people. If you want a career like Bill's, get on YouTube.
and send off all your samples to many companies, and many of them will say no. But then all it takes is that one yes.
It does, actually, yeah. It's one of the things I'm thinking of doing is setting up some sort of channel where I can advise people on how to make their portfolio accessible and what to actually do to get into the industry. It's something that's been racking up. It's been in my head for like a few months. Yeah. So I'm still thinking about how I'm going to put that into practice.
That sounds really interesting. It's something we definitely watch, I'm sure. So what are you doing at the moment? What sort of things are you doing, projects personally, if you have any, and professionally?
Can you talk about them?
I can't.
He can't say anything.
I'm looking at it now and I can't say anything. I'm working for a company called Spliced, which has been made up by a lot of people from ex-Rockstar and ex-TT Games.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that Traveller's Tales? Telltale?
Yeah, Traveller's Tales.
Traveller's Tales, so the Lego games, that isn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
there's a lot of people from there that are working on this project.
So some good provenance there.
Yeah, the guy whose company it is a guy called Imran, who was. I don't want to say the wrong thing. He was basically the guy in charge of the missions on GTA and Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, some very, very good pedigree there, though.
So he left Rockstar a few years ago, and now he's set up his own company, and we're working on this shiny new product, which is going to be amazing.
And do we have an idea of when this amazing shiny product will come out?
No.
We wait with bated breath. That is for sure.
Look forward to that very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, I think. To be honest, I've got more questions here that I can ask from Gaming Dads. I've got more questions coming up in my head, but I think a 4-hour interview probably would be a bit long. So,
Well, you can always ask me back and ask me some more questions.
Yeah, that sounds
definitely,
great.
Definitely. Yeah. Would love to have you back. But it has been an absolute honour to speak to you.
Definitely.
And even my 70-year-old dad, who is anti-gaming, but in the 80s played Daley Thompson's Decathlon. I said to him, I'm interviewing a man who did the art for Daley Thompson's 3. And he was like, ooh, brought back memories. And so just, yeah, you helped make my childhood a very happy place.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Definitely.
Very exciting. And it's been an honour to speak to you. So
it's good to talk.
Thank you so much for joining us. It really is great of you. And maybe we can have you back again, like you said, for maybe an Ocean Software reunion. We get everyone together on one big podcast.
Sure.
That'd be a
Yeah.
big thing.
Great stuff.
Well,
Bill, thank you so much, and look forward to speaking to you again.
All right. Thank you.
You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
So that was the interview with Bill Harbison. What a lovely guy, wasn't he, Tom?
It was. What a pleasure, and what a legend as well.
Yes. Very nervous. So that was our first interview. So, yes, excellent.
More to come. More to come,
hopefully. And now, on to the rest of episode 28. We'll start off with the usuals, and that would be what we've been playing. So, Tom, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing 2 games this week. The first is A Plague's Tale Requiem on the PS5. Fantastically gorgeous game.
Oh, yes.
It's
rat physics.
I haven't really got that far on it, if I'm honest, but
you have seen swarms of rats, though, yes?
I have seen swarms of rats, yeah. Which, if I'm honest, graphically, that was the one bit of the game that didn't impress me. But beautiful game, fantastic game, and it's something I'm going to spend some time playing. But yeah, over to that, I have been playing a Game Boy game, a Game Boy original game, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Back from the Sewers, which is a side-scrolling game.
Beat 'em up?
And sorry?
Beat 'em up?
Yeah, it's got 6 levels. It's pretty easy. A couple of bonus games in there.
Are we talking side-scrolling like 2D Mario kind of side-scrolling?
Yeah, a bit similar
Final Fight Streets of Rage kind of.
It's a bit similar to Super Mario Land 2, but with fighting. It's that the graphics are very basic, but it's a lovely game.
Castlevania kind of thing, but
the
Vania.
Yeah, but it's a lovely game. It's a delightful play. It's a quick game. I think I completed it in 15 minutes.
Are you playing it on original hardware? Are you playing it? Oh, excellent!
Without backlight as well, so I'm having to sit under a lamp and strain my eyes. And I freely admit I'm having to put glasses on to play it as well. So
would you ever be interested in modding? So you have an original Game Boy, but maybe with an up to date. What are they called? An IPS backlit screen? And
absolutely. Unfortunately, I have no skills in doing those things. I can't solder. So, but yeah, I've got various Game Boys sitting upstairs, and one of them is a black Game Boy Pocket, but with a knackered screen. So I am planning at some stage, when I find someone capable of soldering, to fit a decent screen in there.
You talk about soldering, and you know me, and I am absolutely useless at it, so I'm afraid I can't help. So,
well, what's the point? Off you go. I'll do this podcast on my own for tonight. But yeah, so it is something I'm looking at. I have got someone that could probably do it, but it costs a lot of money to get them to do that. So, but I also like the Analog Pocket, the new.
Oh yes, I've heard about the build quality of that. It's astounding.
Phenomenal. And you can put ROMs on there as well as play original cartridges.
But the ROMs you have to tinker a bit though, don't you? I think.
Not anymore. No, the cores are downloadable within the machine, and I think 95% of games work perfectly. But now you can do Super Nintendo, you can do everything up to I think about PS1 and Dreamcast. So it is something that's on my wish list, and I will acquire one at some stage. And also they do the little add-ons where you can use Lynx cartridges and Game Gear and PC Engine GT and things like that. So
for anyone who doesn't know, the Analog Pocket looks visually like a modern Game Boy. Very good build quality. It's not mega expensive, but it's not cheap either, is it? I think
no.
They go for over £100, don't they?
I think it's like $299, isn't it?
Oh wow! Like oh wow! So is it quite expensive then? I thought they were cheaper than that, but you get very good quality with that, but it plays original Game Boy cartridges.
Yeah.
And as you said, you can get add-ons that will play other hardware cartridges. So it's definitely for the enthusiast that wants to play the games rather than the collector solely.
So $219, which is about £200. So, and it comes in multiple colors, and it's an absolutely beautiful device. It's not emulation either, which is really interesting. So, but Duncan, what have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing 2 games. One I've been playing, a DLC I've been playing. I've been playing through the Phantom Liberty Cyberpunk 2077 DLC, which is almost a full price game. Well, I think the RRP, the retail price is £30 or £25, I think.
Yeah.
So it should be big. And yeah, I've played through probably a quarter of it, I would guess, maybe so far. One thing about Cyberpunk was I love it. I mean, I love Cyberpunk. It was great. I had it from day one, and for me, on the series, it worked fine. And so I've never. They've recently updated it to version 2.0, which changed a lot of how the upgrades work and all this kind of thing. But one thing that was very different with this DLC is it starts off with a big dramatic action piece, which you start off. You go to what they call is Dogtown. I won't give away too much of what happens. Much to say, there is a crash of a flying vehicle, and there's a notable person on that vehicle, and yeah, so it starts off with you going into this Dogtown, which is basically like a military dictatorship that's sort of against the system. It started off, but it's just basically turned into a very dodgy dive ghetto, basically. And yeah, it's the set piece at the beginning really hypes you up for it, and then you meet, of course, Idris Elba is in it.
Yes,
he so far, I don't think he's entirely just phoned it in. I think there is a little bit of uncanny valley in there, where you're like, you're looking, and that's Idris Elba who's just staring blankly into space when he's not doing anything. And you're thinking, okay, this is weird. When it's just some no person who's NPC that's staring into space, you don't think anything of it. But when it's an actor that you know, well, not personally, but that you know of, and they're just standing there staring because you've stopped talking to them, like, yeah, this is a bit weird. But no, he's so far I've had him in the game for a couple of missions, kind of thing. So as I said, I'm not far into the DLC, but I have completed Cyberpunk a couple of times before, so I do know what happens at the end. But this DLC has its own ending of the whole game, apparently, that affects the ending. So yeah, I'm very excited to find out what happens. I don't know if you know that basically, because it has Keanu Reeves in it. In the main game, you have a biochip in your head and then you die, and the biochip freaks out, and Keanu Reeves' character is taking over your consciousness. At first, he's not very happy about it, his consciousness, his digital consciousness, but then he gets to become sort of friends with you. And so, yeah, the outcome is your character's trying to get this consciousness to stop killing him. And Keanu Reeves' job is to sit there and at you and chatter to you and moan about destroying the system and all this kind of thing. No, it's
sounds
fantastic.
like it's worth a play.
Oh, Cyberpunk is absolutely worth a play.
Is that on Game Pass?
It is not on Game Pass, but it is on all format. Well, it's on PS5, it's on PC, it's on Xbox. You can get it on GOG on PC, probably at the best price. If you look around, I think you can get it for as little as sort of £15 kind of thing. With the DLC, you're probably talking £20-30 in total. But yeah, fantastic game. But I shall get then onto the other game that I played this week that I can't play Cyberpunk with my 5-year-old child. But what I have been playing with my 5-year-old child is Palworld. Now, I don't think you hadn't heard of this, had you? But
no.
It has,
I'm not holding up my end of the gaming bargain this week.
It is absolutely exploded into the world. There's been some controversies, I think. I believe I've heard it's the same developer who did a game called Craftopia. And it is very similar to that. But the easiest way to describe it is the game Ark with Pokemon. But just for legal reasons, it is not Pokemon. They're pals. And okay. And this is where the most controversy comes, is that you obviously, the Pokemon company and Nintendo are very much going, we're going to find a way of closing this game down. That's probably what they're saying behind the scenes. And then obviously, a lot of Pokemon fans are, this is disgusting, this shouldn't be allowed. And it is. It is them ripping off Pokemon. There's no doubt about that. But
is that like a bit like Digimon ripped off Pokemon back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, people have said, like, shown side-by-side pictures of various 3D Pokemon in 3D games and gone, look at this, they're similar. And I don't think anybody's denying that. That's the thing. People are getting angry about it. It's like, I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you that they're ripping off Pokemon. Yeah. But it is, and there was, as much as I read Eurogamer, they put out an article today about being, it's not very good. It doesn't do this very well. It doesn't do this. Oh, this is not very good. And this is not very good. But it was obviously just written by somebody who really likes Pokemon and really likes probably not Ark, and has gone, this isn't very good, because they're angry about other things.
Right.
And okay, be angry about it. But it is fun. And it rips off from a lot of games. It is, like I said, it is Ark, and their game Craftopia was very similar to Ark, that kind of thing, where you go along and you punch a tree, and then you make an axe, and you chop a tree down, and then you make get some metal, and you make a metal axe, and you chop more trees, and you do. But you can use the pals to automate wood gathering and metal gathering, ore gathering, and building and sowing seeds and watering, and then you get to battle. But the battle is very much a manual thing. You have you build weapons, but you could use the pals to either automate your things, or you could have them fight alongside you. The graphics are very pretty and bright, and it completely and utterly rips off probably 3 or 4 games, no problem. But it mixes 2 things that a lot of people wanted, quite obviously, and it's made it very popular, and it's fun. My 5-year-old absolutely loved it. There are some dodgy ones, apparently. I haven't seen it yet, but apparently there's one that's a Pokemon, a PAL, that is like a hung entity, as in like, so it's dark Pokemon. But yeah, it's good, and I don't play multiplayer. It has got multiplayer, which apparently has been under some strain, because at one point on PC it had more players than Fortnite.
And that's saying something. I mean,
that is saying something.
Yeah.
And so it's there's been some minor issues to do with servers and whatnot, but no, it's a fun game, and I think kids and adults have loved it. It's in early access, so more things will change, and if they do get sued by Nintendo, I'm sure there will be big visual changes. But yeah, they've hit on a combo of two types of game that has hit a positive nerve for them.
And how can people access this game? Is it on? It's on Steam. I know that.
It is on Steam. It is on Game Pass. It was on Game Pass from day one. It is apparently a couple of steps behind on Game Pass compared to Steam. So if you want the most up to date, you have to pay on PC. Now that is they've stated that's because of certification, which certification. So Microsoft have to basically say, yeah, that game is all right to be released, kind of thing, or that update is fine. That's not messing with our hardware.
Yeah.
So, and they have stated they do want to bring it to PlayStation. So, don't worry, PlayStation users, it will come to you. Obviously, I don't think it would run very well on Nintendo, and I don't think Nintendo would probably allow this game. I think they'd probably go, no. So, yeah, I can't imagine.
But it depends how big it gets, doesn't it? I suppose because
I mean, if
it's
they
like
do,
Fortnite, isn't it?
If they do threaten them with, change the visual style, and we won't sue you, and they do, then you never know. But I think, having Arc on Switch would be a push. So, yeah, I don't think it will ever be on Switch, even graphically changed.
No,
maybe Switch 2.
Maybe.
But at the moment, it's definitely a fun game. That if you want anything blazingly new and something that you've never seen before, this is the game for you. But if you want something that's easy to access, it's definitely a fantastic game.
I should get my son to check it out, as he's a big fan of all the games you've mentioned. So. Definitely something I'll be getting to look at.
He will very much enjoy. As I said, my 5-year-old absolutely. He actually asked yesterday. He had the option of playing on Minecraft himself, because he hadn't started Palworld. He actually said, "Oh, can you play on Palworld and I'll watch you." I think he thinks I'm some live YouTube. I think, Daddy, can you be YouTube?
Oh, bless him.
So he's loving it, and so definitely one for the kids. Just maybe keep an eye on the dark Pokemon. Anyway, so what else I want to talk about? There was, I don't know if you heard about it, but there was the Xbox Developer Direct.
I did.
I presume it's the equivalent of the Nintendo Direct, which is such a boring title. It makes it sound like they're going to talk about pixel density and texture mapping and all that kind of thing. But no, it's basically a small way of revealing a few games. And there was a big one revealed. Was Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle, I believe. Hang on. I'm just going to check that. Indiana Jones, the Golden Circle. I'm pretty sure it's that. Oh, the Great Circle. Sorry, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It is. So this is a game developed by Machine Games, who make Wolfenstein, as in the modern Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein Old Blood. And they're making it a first-person Indiana Jones game for Microsoft. They are Microsoft. It looks
phenomenal.
It does. It looks fantastic. Now, I thought this was actually voiced. They have Harrison Ford's likeness in it, and I thought it was Harrison Ford's voice. Apparently, it's Troy Baker, who voices Joel on The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the trailer that's out now for it, it's astounding. You never in a million years would I have guessed it was a sound alike. But yeah, he sounds just like Harrison Ford. So yeah, it's if I was to describe what the trailer looks like in one line, I would say Uncharted and their game Wolfenstein had a baby.
Okay.
So it's got the whip in it. It's got the whip fighting. It's got fist fighting. It's got shooting. It's got parkour, sort of traversal with the whip, like swinging with the whip.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it looks absolutely fantastic. I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I'm an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, so I'll get to play it day one. And yeah, I think with the Wolfenstein games were a big surprise to a lot of people, I think. So with how successful they were, and how good they were, that's why they were successful. So I think it's in good hands, and yeah, I'm quite positive about it. Would it be something that you would try?
I always find these kind of games, and I'm hopeful, but I always find these games are disappointing when they come out. They look great, but they're just a repeat of other games. However, I hold out on this one, so we shall see. But it does look phenomenal, and it's Indiana Jones. Who doesn't want to control Indiana Jones? I mean,
Exactly.
that alone.
I mean, before there's been, I think we haven't had a decent Super Nintendo game probably since the point and click. What was that? The Fate of Atlantis? Was that the point and click, or was that the Last Crusade? I don't know. There was point and click. I think it was the Fate of Atlantis.
I hated those games.
The LucasArts ones?
Yeah, I hate them.
How has it taken me this long to find this out? Oh,
I'm so sorry.
What about the Secret of Monkey Island?
No, can't stand them. Yeah, not a fan at all. So
right, and that's it, right, everybody. Tom will no longer be on the gaming podcast from now on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
Not for you, no. What about modern ones like Broken Sword? Or is it the style of game, or did you?
I like Broken Sword. Yeah, I don't like the almost hand-drawn look and feel of some of those old style games. And I'm a retro gamer, as you know. But Broken Sword, not Broken Sword, Monkey Island. That I just don't like them. I'm just not a fan.
What about the other LucasArts games like your Mega Mansion, Full Throttle, The Dig?
I'm just not a fan. LucasArts games are really disappointing in general.
You mean the LucasArts point and click ones though? Because obviously LucasArts games was quite wide. I mean, you had the Dark Forces, Star Wars games, and all that.
Yeah, but even if you go to some of those, some of them, there was a couple of really good ones. But as a whole, LucasArts games were generally always promising a lot, and they were quite naff. There was only really a couple of really good Star Wars games that they released.
I mean, I just remember, I can't remember which first-person shooter it was that was a Star Wars one. I think it was Jedi Knight, no, or Dark Forces, one of the two. And it was the first big first-person shooter that you could look up and look down.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. It blew my mind. Oh my god, this is like an evolution of gaming. And I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I mean they had some bangers in there, some good bangers. But yes, they did have a lot of. I think we just spoke to Bill Harbison. You know, there was probably plenty that they just went right. We want this game out in 3 months. Make it.
That's it. Yeah, and I think that's what it was. And I think the label, unfortunately, became very much a bargain bin label over a period of time because of some of the fouled releases or the lacking quality. But you look at some of the more recent Star Wars games, have they lasted the test of time? Maybe not.
I'd say Monkey Island has. Monkey Island, you've had remasters and whatnot that have improved the controls because they're having to click on the verbs at the bottom of the screen was a bit annoying. Although they work very well on phones. If you have the original graphics and the original versions on ScumVM on phones, works very well because you just tap the verb you want and tap on the thing. Tap, 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 tap. Rather than on the phones with the updated one, you had to tap and then it come up with a magnifying glass or something. You have to go, that one. Whereas with the original, you had for those you had at the bottom you had push, pull, talk, give, take, and whatnot, and you would just tap 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 tap. Great. Anyway, so go back to it. Back to the original conversation. Indiana Jones. I think that the best one, the Indiana Jones. I think it was the Fate of Atlantis was the point and click. Fate of Atlantis. I'm going to look it up now because I've got to find out. It was images. I'm just looking it up very quick. Yes, it was a point and click, and you had all the verbs at the bottom of the screen and whatnot. Yeah, so fantastic game. Loved it.
I was just looking back at some of the retro Indiana Jones games as well. You had on the SNES.
Yeah, there was a
Last
platformer.
Crusades. Yeah,
it was the Last Crusade that was on the SNES. I knew that there was a
Gameboy.
Because I did.
There's even an arcade machine as well, Temple of Doom.
Ooh,
which
was it a
pretty
platformer
good
as well? Was it?
I think so. Yeah. And
Kalima,
obviously you had the Lego
Kalima.
and you had the Lego game, which was
of course the Lego game. The Lego game was the one that it suddenly exploded in price because it was one that you could hack. You needed it to hack the Wii, and I remember my friend had a copy of it, and he said, "Oh, and he knew that he could use it for hacking the Wii, and he wasn't interested in doing that, but he was like, I'm going to sell it." And I said, "Oh yeah, is it going to go for 30, 40 quid kind of thing?" Because it was only months before that you could probably get it in bargain basement for £5-10 kind of thing. And he went, "No," he goes, "They're going upwards of £100."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And it's basically all the copies have been bought up. So it was.
You also had Indiana Jones Staff of Kings on the Wii, which was a 3D game.
That sounds very much like a call it in kind of.
Yeah,
probably wasn't very good.
But the one that really, really sets out, which I think was graphically fantastic, was the Greatest Adventures, Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures on the SNES, which was an absolute banger of a game. Graphically, it was phenomenal. Probably, in my opinion, the best Indiana Jones game ever released.
Well, I'm just looking now, and now obviously this is individual platforms as well. I've just typed in Indiana Jones on Metacritic, and there's 73 games. Blimey.
Yep.
Now, the highest Metascore is the Lego Indiana Jones Original Adventures on the Xbox. But no game has scored higher than 77 on Metacritic. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine on Nintendo 64 is the next highest. Oh, blimey. Everything else is... Ooh. Oh, no. A lot of them are unrated. That's what it is. There's only about 8 that are being rated.
Well, the Super Nintendo game was a fantastic game, in my opinion, of course. And it had everything from levels where you were riding on the back of a horse and carriage being pulled along by a horse. You had levels where you were in temples. You had lava levels. You had the whip and things like that. And it was almost very Castlevania in its feel, but graphically it was fantastic.
Oh, there was Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb on the Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yes.
Yeah, not a bit of a mixed review. kind of thing. But I don't think I ever played that. But I think I remember that being a 3D game.
There was a 3D level, I seem to remember, on the Super Nintendo where you were in the cart going through a lava, which looked almost very Minecraft-esque in terms of graphics, but it was obviously mode 7, and you had to select what tracks you went on and things. So it was, I don't know if there was a Mega Drive version of it.
Don't know. I can't see it at the moment. But well, anyway, hopefully, I don't know when it's due to come out. I can't remember that, but hopefully, sometime this year, we are going to get a good Indiana Jones game. I mean, if Machine Games' history is anything to go by, it's going to be a really good game. Yeah, hopefully. They also showed at the Xbox Developer Direct, they showed Avowed, which is the next game from Obsidian. And so Obsidian, they did the Outer Worlds. They've done Fallout New Vegas is the big one that most people will know. They are Microsoft owned now. And obviously Microsoft now own Bethesda, so where's the next Fallout game that they can make? But I don't think that'll happen now. They're off making their own things. But yeah, Avowed, it's fantasy kind of magic and swords kind of fighting now and battle, but it's another Obsidian RPG. Looks like they're trying, something new, and it looks okay. I would say, it looks better than previous games, but whether it's not something you go, wow, it looks pretty. But it's Obsidian, so I'm excited because of their history. Whether this is going to be a 97% game or not, I'm not sure. I'm positive. I'm optimistic. But yeah, it looks interesting. They're trying new things. They claim that it's all new combat and all new this and all new that. But will it be another Obsidian RPG that's the Outer Worlds was and Fallout New Vegas, just in a fantasy magic world?
Yeah, I like the Visions of, is it Mana?
Visions of Mana, yeah. Well, that's because obviously the Secrets of Mana and stuff like that are some of the most well loved RPGs ever. Really, I mean the Mana series. So that looks like it could be good.
Stunning looking game, absolutely. So time will tell.
I've got to say, I've never played any of the Mana games. I'm hoping that I bought my son an Ambernick RG35XXH. I think I remembered all those letters and numbers, which is a horizontal retro gaming machine. And I'm hoping to get him into some RPGs. We'll keep him quiet for a few hours here and there.
No chance.
No. Daddy, can you help me get past this boss?
That's when Daddy takes over.
I will sit and play for an hour. That's fine. But yeah, I'm hoping. I did ask recently for some advice of RPGs to easy RPGs to get a small child into, because obviously he's 5, got to get into, and nobody suggested any of the Mana games. It's mostly Earthbound, the Mother games, and Pokemon. Pokemon, obviously, which I completely went, duh, of course. Pokemon games. Who, what child didn't like Pokemon?
Well, the Gameboy ones were the best.
Start him off on the first one so that he can build himself up to the more recent ones.
Terranigma was a great game as well.
Okay, what was that on?
Super Nintendo.
Terranigma.
It's quite a rare game, that one.
Okay. Action role-playing game. So it's an action one. Okay. I've got to say, never heard of that one. When it says action one, is it one of these ones where you just got your, like Zelda is an action one, isn't it? Because you poke your sword out.
It's like the early days Zelda, but there's lots of other things.
Really action, is it? It's an RPG. It's not a turn-based fighting one.
Mm.
Now, are you a turn-based fighter, or are you an action?
I prefer action personally. I liked the Pokemon games on the original Game Boy. I thought they were great, and I had a big selection of those that were gifted to me. And about 10, 11 years ago, I never realised the value of them until I decided to offload all the extra copies I had, and I think it was about £600 in value. I know. I mean, I had about 7 copies of it, but yeah. And then I still had my original copies as well that were boxed. So when I offloaded just the carts, I walked away with a huge chunk, and I was like, "This is fantastic." I mean, obviously, I hadn't paid to get them either. That was even better. So, yeah. So
I have wondered if my dad still has any gaming things from this. I mean, he's still got an interstate console, but I've looked that up, and I think you can buy one of those for about £50. They're not particularly collectible. It's basically a pong machine from the 70s, late 70s, mid to late 70s, but it came with a light gun, pew, pew, pew. Which obviously in the 70s was like, ooh. But no,
I remember I went into local to where we live. There was a place called Les and Gary's, and they had this machine in there that was just after the Pong days, and it had been sitting in there for years, and I eventually managed to get them to agree to sell it to me for £12, and it had 2 controllers, the light gun, and about 5 or 6 games that were boxed, and they were all...
God, how much did he sell it for?
About £60.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it played like a very early basic 8-bit Atari. But the Space Invaders clone on it was pretty good. The Pac-Man clone was, well, let's just chalk that down to experience. But for what it was great. I think the guy that bought it off me probably regretted it. So, but yeah.
Well, the one my dad has is an original from the 70s. It has about 10 games, but they're basically just different iterations of Pong. It's Pong with a goal on either side. It's squash with a goal on one side. It's tennis, doubles tennis with 2 pads that you control.
Yeah,
but they both they both move like this kind of thing. When you move your twisty paddle. So they're all basically Pong and different versions of Pong.
I had the Beanatone Model 014974 TV game, which came with basically Pong, and it was funny because I think one side said squash, tennis, and then football, if I remember rightly. They were essentially all the same.
They were just Pong. They were just Pong, weren't they? It's Pong with two paddles, Pong with 3 paddles.
Oh, here we go. It had shooting
when you're on the other side and your the opponent's mixed in the middle. Pong with
That's it.
Yeah.
It was actually made by Magnavox, believe it or not.
Okay.
So
I don't know who made.
Black and white TV game had 4 games plus 2 games with optional gun.
I don't know who made the Interstate console. Oh, apparently there was different versions of the Interstate console. Okay. But it was 1970s. Oh, there's a picture of the 1160, the Interstate 1160.
I always wanted to.
Now is it the time where I should be looking at eBay? Is there?
I always wanted a ColecoVision, and because I was
wasn't that called something else in this country though?
Yeah, probably. I can't remember what it was called. Intellivision, maybe.
Both. Oh no, it was released in Europe as the CBS ColecoVision.
But the boxes of the game had fantastic artwork on them, and they have done a retro flashback console. It was 60 built-in games, but
it had 10 buttons on it as well, like phone-style buttons.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty naff. Don't get me wrong, but for what it was in the day, it was one of the first interchangeable cart machines as well. And I think it also, if I remember rightly, it took Atari carts as well, Atari 2600 carts.
Well, I'm just looking at the first eBay things that comes up for a CBS ColecoVision. A bargain at £400.
Let's buy 7 of them.
So yeah, I won't be buying any of them anytime soon.
No.
Although the carts are going from 25 to 50 quid kind of thing, so that's not too bad.
Well, they hold up really well. I mean, the games, I don't know if you've seen the graphics on them, but some of them are absolutely wonderful for that era. And I would say that they even outdo some of the Atari games. You had like Ladybug, and you had Popeye, Ghostbusters, and I'm trying to think what else we had. It was a Pac-Man clone, which was horrific. But it was better than the Atari version. So, you know.
Well, I mean, looking back on them now, though, they were right to play. I mean, obviously you do have Pac-Man and whatnot. Burger Time, you had on there, which is on my son's little. He loves that as well. The fact that you can make a burger, he loves that fact. But it's very hard. Burger Time is very, very hard.
It is.
Yeah, I think I got to level 3 once when I played it. The rest of the time I was like, nope, can't do that. Yeah. So
they had Spy Hunter on the ColecoVision, which was graphically wonderful, and Galaxian as well, which, in my opinion, the Galaxian on the ColecoVision was the best version by far. So, but my controversial views on gaming. So.
Well, I think we've been playing chatting for 40 minutes, and I think with Mr. Harbison interview on here as well, that's a good hour and 10 minutes. I think people are probably getting fed up of hearing our dulcet tones. So we'll do some game on this day. Literally, I'll just do one day. Celeste. Oh, apparently that came out 6 years ago. Dead Space 2, 13 years. 13 years ago. Oh, apparently Playboy the Mansion came out on PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC 19 years ago. Did you play that one, Tom?
Did it come with optional gonorrhea or something like that?
I can't say I played that one myself.
No, in-game chlamydia, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Devil May Cry 2 and Onimusha Warlords. Two fantastic action games. Both came out PlayStation 2, but one Devil May Cry 2 21 years ago.
It honestly does seem like it was just yesterday.
Came out 21 years ago.
It's crazy.
Wow. Onimusha came out 23 years ago. So there you go. Other than that, not much on this day. Two Worlds 2. I think that completely flopped. But so
wasn't great. Wasn't
great. And if we talk about 1 year ago, Hi-Fi Rush, the action rhythm game that came out. Is that a year ago? Wow.
I never played that.
It's a rhythm game, but it's an action game. So it blew my brain a bit. I think I talked about it in a previous episode. Yeah, I didn't get it, and that's more of a me thing than the game thing. So it was very bright, very colourful, reminded me of a bit of Sunset Overdrive kind of thing.
Okay.
Just without the skating. So
Jet Set Willy, but without the graffiti.
Jet Set Radio.
That's the one. Sorry. Jet Set Willy. Christ, that's going back.
Oh, yes. That was oh, God. Oh, we could talk about, Spectrum games. Yeah, we'll have to have a Spectrum special at some point.
Let's have a Spectrum special next week.
Although if Martin's back, we should probably say as well. Yeah, Martin, he's just having he's having busy time in his life at the moment. He is going to be back, so he will.
And we should note also today, which is the 25th of January, Nintendo have announced that the 3DS and Wii U stores will be closing finally in April. So
they announced that last year, didn't they?
They postponed it due
okay.
to uproar, but it's finally closing, and you will still be able to download some of your games. But my advice is the games you purchase on the virtual stores, get them downloaded, because there will come a stage where you can't re-download them, and they're not transferable to the Switch. So
now, correct me if I'm wrong. Nintendo DS and is this a 3DS store you said, or the DS?
It's the 3DS. The 3DS. DS store, I think, is already closed. The 3DS store and the Wii U store.
So the 3DS, you could download games to an SD card, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, an SD card, a full size, an SD card, it's, you could get a 16 gigabyte for a couple of quid now. So get one of them, download all your games, and just keep that safe.
And the 3DS, let's face it, is a phenomenal piece of kit.
I never had it. We have a 2DS in this house, which is a great piece of kit as well. Because let's face it, did you own a 3DS?
I picked one up about 6 years ago for a $5 with 20 games.
Did you ever actually use the 3D?
Yes, I'm going to say I did. But I do want to get a 3DS Max XL.
Is that just a huge one?
It's the bigger screen version where the 3D works better.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I did use it.
You are probably the first person I've ever met that's had one. That
Pilot Wings was phenomenal.
That did say, "Oh yeah, I'll just turn the 3D off after about 20 minutes."
Yeah, well,
most people liked it. It was like, yeah, it was great, it worked really well. Okay, so you still got it on, and I turned off.
I think Pilot Wings, Mario Kart, things like that work really well, but it is a nice strain job, and that's why you need the bigger version. But I would never pay 30 odd quid. It was a $5 with loads of games. What are you going to do? So
excellent. So there you go. That's a bit of a PSA. Download your games now. Well, or within the next couple of months. Right.
And on that note,
yes.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. And like and subscribe, obviously. Yay.
Yes.
Like
Enjoy.
and subscribe.